Welcome back everyone to part 4 of What If Zoro Was Reborn in Demon Slayer. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and without wasting time, let's get back to it. The dojo's wide yard, usually reserved for morning drills and evening meditation, now thrummed with excitement. The capital students had settled in, their laughter mixing with the curious chatter of Shimotsuki Village's youth. Wooden swords clacked together in mock duels even before the official sparring began, as though the air itself had become too heavy with anticipation to wait. Kushiro stood at the edge of the courtyard, arms folded, his eyes calm as still water. Beside him, Hyagoro barked a laugh, his booming voice filling the grounds. Looks like our students are more eager than we thought, Kushiro. They've waited long enough, Kushiro replied with a faint smile. Best to let their spirits clash. At the signal, the matches began. First match. Kuzo, student from Shimotsuki, vs. Haru, student from the capital. Someone get us a picture of how these two look like. Kuzo stepped up first, eager as ever. His opponent was Haru, a wiry boy from the capital with sharp eyes that glimmered with quiet confidence. As they bowed and raised their bakken, Kuzo's stance was low and brimming with raw aggression. Haru, by contrast, moved lightly on his feet, like a reed bending with the wind. Begin. Kuzo lunged in first, his strike powerful and unrelenting, forcing Haru onto the defensive. But Haru sidestepped, letting Kuzo's blow whistle past before tapping his shoulder lightly. Too wild, Haru said under his breath. Kuzo growled, spinning back with another swing. Their swords clashed again and again, sparks of wood biting against wood. Though Kuzo pressed hard, Haru's technique was sharp, clean, efficient, almost too polished. In the end, Haru disarmed him with a swift twist and sent Kuzo's bakken clattering across the yard. Winner, Haru. Kuzo cursed under his breath, cheeks burning. From the sidelines, his peers jeered playfully. Second match. Denjiro vs. Urashima. A murmur ran through the gathered students when Denjiro stepped forward. He was a tall boy, his hair tied back neatly, his sharp gaze exuding composure beyond his years. Urashima lumbered to the front, towering over nearly everyone. Broad shoulders, thick arms, and shock of pink hair made him look more like a mountain than a boy. This'll be over fast. Urashima boomed, thumping his bakken against his palm. I'll crush you. Denjiro bowed respectfully, unshaken by the taunt. His grip on his bakken was relaxed, almost casual. Begin. Urashima charged with surprising speed for his size, his strike heavy enough to send dust flying. But Denjiro was already gone, slipping past with graceful precision. He tapped Urashima's ribs with the tip of his sword, just enough to score a point, before stepping back. Urashima snarled and swung harder. Denjiro parried effortlessly, his bakken gliding along Urashima's strikes like water over stone. No matter how many times Urashima attacked, Denjiro was always there, sometimes a step ahead, sometimes just out of reach. I won't lose, not to you, Urashima said as he clashed wooden swords with Denjiro. Urashima had an older brother. Their parents died a couple of years after Urashima was born, leaving his older brother to fend for both of them as he was too young to do anything. His older brother took various kinda of jobs others often got him into trouble, but his older brother was a strong swordsman. One day his brother poured all his savings and gave them to Urashima, sending him to Shimotsuki village, saying that he didn't want his brother to grow and live like him, he wanted him to grow into a great man while he left for the land where criminals and ronin reside. He planned on ruling over all of them through strength and might. This was the reason why Urashima wanted to grow strong, not only for himself but for his brother as well. He didn't want to waste his brother's efforts. However, swordsmanship was not where his physical talents lie. He has yet to truly discover what that was. Finally, with a swift upward slash, Denjiro struck Urashima's wrist, sending the bakken spinning into the dirt. Damn it, I've lost, Urashima said as he looked at his hands in contemplation. Gasps erupted from the onlookers. Winner, Denjiro. Urashima stumbled back, clutching his wrist in disbelief. Impossible. Denjiro bowed again, expression calm, though the faintest smile tugged at the corner of his lips. His composure only added to his aura, making the Shimotsuki students whisper among themselves. More matches unfold. The sparring continued throughout the afternoon. Kaya from Shimotsuki dojo, quick on her feet, narrowly bested a capital student twice her size by darting in and striking his shins. Riku, one of Hyagoro's promising boys, overwhelmed his opponent with sheer technique, making each move flow seamlessly into the next. Even the younger children clashed, their wooden swords clumsy but their laughter echoing through the yard, drawing smiles from the old masters. Every strike, every parry carried the weight of pride, not just for themselves, but for their dojos, their teachers, their hometowns. Kuza's return to the ring. Unable to sit idle, Kuza stepped back into the sparring ring against another capital student, this time a boy named Shinta. His breaths were sharp, his jaw tight with determination. Again, Shinta asked, raising his brow. Yeah, Kuza growled. This time I'm not losing. The clash was brutal. Kuza's strikes had grown sharper since his loss, his focus more intense. Though Shinta's defense was solid, Kuza powered through it with sheer willpower, landing a decisive blow to the chest. Winner, Kuza. The Shimotsuki students cheered wildly, though Kuza just sheathed his bakken, muttering under his breath. As the sun dipped low, painting the courtyard in shades of orange and gold, Kushiro finally raised his hand. That's enough for now. Rest, eat, and prepare yourselves, for later, the true matches will begin. Laughter and chatter filled the air as students from both groups mingled again, swapping playful insults and promises of rematches. Yet in the corner, Denjiro remained quietly sharpening his focus, and Zoro was nonchalant, even falling asleep through all the noise. Something about the Zoro's presence gnawed at Denjiro. He didn't know why. Not yet. Could he be as strong as him, he thought. The courtyard of the Shimotsuki dojo buzzed with energy, the sun beating down on polished wooden floors where the two school students faced each other. After the morning's warm-up matches, both groups were beginning to respect one another's strengths. Some students were panting, others whispering about the skills they had just witnessed. But there was one boy who had yet to fight among them. Oi, Zoro, one of Kushiro's students nudged him. You going to just sit there with your sword strapped to your waist all day? Zoro smirked and stood up slowly, tying his bandana across his head. His short green hair caught the sunlight, and the three wooden practice swords at his waist rattled slightly as he walked forward. The students from the capital watched curiously, most of them had never seen anyone carry three swords before. How does he even hold the third sword? They silently asked themselves. Hyagoro raised an eyebrow. 3 swords. At his age. Kushiro folded his arms calmly. If that's surprising, then you'll be more surprised to learn that when he first came to my dojo he held 8 swords, 4 on each hand simultaneously. Kushiro chuckled. Remember the first time Zoro came to the dojo? 8 swords at once, all the students exclaimed. More swords does not equal more strength, but looks like he learned from that. One student from the capital looking at Zoro. He was filled with anticipation to see him fight. A large, broad-shouldered student from the capital stepped into the ring. He towered over Zoro, smirking down at the smaller boy. You're small. I'll finish this in one blow. Zoro tilted his head, unimpressed. Then you'd better not miss. The referee shouted. Begin. The big student charged, swinging his wooden blade with enough force to rattle the floorboards. But before anyone could blink, Zoro had already drawn both swords in a single smooth motion. 2 sword, tiger hunt. The air cracked as Zoro dashed forward, crossing his blades in a perfect strike that hit square across the giant boy's chest. The impact sent him crashing to the ground with a thud, his sword flying from his hands. Silence fell over the courtyard. One of the capital students whispered, Did he just one-shot him? Another gasped, with wooden swords. Zoro flicked his wrists, sliding both practice blades back into place. Next. Impressive. Even Hyagoro's brows lifted in surprise, and the corners of Kushiro's lips twitched in the faintest of smiles. Several more matches played out after that. Inspired by Zoro's display, Kushiro's students fought with renewed energy, while the capital students answered with their own skill. Rivalries began to spark. Some matches ended in handshakes, others in heated glares. Then, Hyagoro's voice cut through the chatter. Denjiro, step forward. The boy who moved into the ring looked calm, his sharp eyes glinting beneath his messy dark hair. Denjiro's grip on his wooden katana was firm, his stance disciplined. He gave a small bow to Kushiro before turning to face Zoro. Zoro cracked his neck, stepping into the ring without hesitation. You look tougher than the rest. Don't disappoint me. Denjiro's mouth curved into a thin smile. I should be saying that to you. The referee signaled, begin. Both boys launched forward at the same time, wooden swords clashing in a sharp crack that echoed across the dojo. Sparks of excitement spread through the watching students as the two locked eyes. Zoro pushed with raw strength. He was only using two swords, forcing Denjiro back. But Denjiro twisted his stance and retaliated, his blade slashing with sharp precision. Azure flow cut. Denjiro shouted, his sword sweeping like a flowing current. Zoro deflected it with his left sword and countered immediately. Tiger trap. Zoro roared through the air, forcing Denjiro to leap back just in time, his sandals skidding across the floor. Gasps rose from the crowd. He's so fast. One of the capital students exclaimed. But Denjiro's reading his moves. Another replied. The duel continued, Zoro's dual blades slicing in relentless arcs, Denjiro's single katana answering each strike with cunning precision. At times Zoro's brute force drove Denjiro into defense, but the capital boy's calm skill turned near losses into narrow saves. Their swords clashed again and again, the shockwaves echoing like thunder in the dojo courtyard. Sweat dripped from both boys' brows, yet neither yielded an inch. Finally, Zoro grinned. You're strong. But I'm stronger. Denjiro's eyes narrowed. We shall see. Zoro spun into a wide stance, both swords poised. Denjiro braced, his katana steady. Their auras flared, one of raw, wild ambition, the other of refined, disciplined skill. Santoryu, Tatsumaki. Zoro roared, his blades whirling in a fierce dragon twister that sent the wind itself howling. Denjiro met it head on, slashing upward. Clear sky strike. His blade shone in a straight, perfect arc. The collision sent dust swirling, and the audience shielded their eyes. When it cleared, both boys were panting, their swords crossed once more at the center. And slowly, Denjiro's sword slipped downward under Zoro's relentless pressure, but before it could slip, Denjiro deflected Zoro's strike and stepped 3 steps back. Let's end this in one move, Denjiro said. You read my mind, Zoro said as he took out his third wooden sword, placing the handle in his mouth. The students from the capital and Denjiro, _. This is ridiculous, he must be clearly joking, one of the students from the capital exclaimed. That's a peculiar way to wield a blade, Hyagoro said as he sweat dropped. Kiyoshiro had black lines on his face. He'd thought Zoro down the line would opt for using 2 swords and discard the third one, but he was proven wrong. Not only did he wield 3 swords, but he was actually good at it. Zoro ignored all as he focused solely on Denjiro. He'd telegraph how the clash would end in his mind, he saw through time. In his state of focus he was subtly leaking killing intent. The killing intent, although it was not directed at them, the other students felt it and it quieted them down. Already at that level, truly amazing, Hyagoro was indeed shocked by this showcase. This boy must have trained really hard. In fact, most swordsmen never reach this level of focus, to focus only on a single thought. Kushiro said nothing, but he had a smile on his face. The smile of a proud teacher. Denjiro felt was the only one who felt the full brunt of Zoro's killing intent. Sweat crawled down at the back of his hands and neck. It was as if he was looking at a beast. He steeled himself and remembered the words of someone. Focus, if you lose a single second of focus, that could be the end of you. Thank you, brother, for your words. He stepped himself and focused on Zoro. There was a moment of silence. 1 sword style. Reverse Tiger Lotus. 3 sword style. Onigiri. They both rushed at each other with great speeds and appeared behind each other. There was silence. The silence was broken by a falling wooden sword. Denjiro fell to the ground clutching at his chest. Zoro had won and he had lost. Zoro looked back at Denjiro. You were a great opponent. Hope we can fight again somewhere time, but with real swords, Zoro said. The courtyard erupted with shouts. He beat Denjiro. That monster. 3 sword style is the best. I want to use 3 swords. Hyagoro stroked his beard, visibly impressed. So, this is the strongest boy of Shimotsuki village. Kushiro, ever calm, simply said, he has much to learn still in order to archive his goal. What is his goal? Hyagoro asked. To be the greatest. The greatest, huh? Hyagoro said as he stretched goatee. The clash of young prodigies had set the courtyard ablaze, and everyone knew this was only the beginning. So who's next? Zoro asked before anyone could say anything. Someone from the entrance of the dojo spoke out. That'll be me, ha 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 ha. Everyone looked at the entrance and saw a large figure in shock. Who could this be? The figure walked through the crowd and stepped onto the ring. He took out his two wooden swords and got into a fighting stance facing Zoro. I am Odin and I was born to boil. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next part when it drops.